Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for April 7th, 2023. I guess it's Good Friday, except in some time zones, maybe it's already Saturday. And we have a small group today, but also present are Steve Wirt, who's sharing his screen and will start off the discussion, and regulars Ralph Kohler and Simo Helston. So go ahead, Steve.
Good morning. Thanks for having me here. First time being here. So this is issue number 3351638, and it centers around some truncation that's being done on the alias tables right now. When you go to the alias admin, we're truncating it at 47 characters plus some ellipses. And in my work, I work on a lot of large sites that have large URLs that are way longer than 47 characters. And so, for example, this is what it looks like for va.gov. When I filter for Abilene Vet Center, I get largely URLs that I can't easily differentiate from one another. And even Google Chrome is not all that helpful, because when you hover over it, it gives you like the last part, and then you have to wait while it actually sort of unfurls the full URL at the bottom of the screen. And so that's the primary issue, is to try to make that more usable. And if we're doing kind of a historical dive, that really stems from the causal of this was 86461, and in this, Dries sort of brought out from the very beginning that, not sure this is the proper solution. It was questioned farther down, and again, this was 13 years ago. It was questioned farther down, why are we choosing 50? It didn't really get addressed, and so there was really, it wasn't really questioned at the time, like, does this make sense to do? It's my conjecture that this, the whole purpose from my mind anyway, is that this UI is for managing aliases, and when we hide any information about the alias that we're trying to manage, we actually get in our own way on that kind of thing. And so what I'm proposing is this result, where we don't truncate them. And it seems like the original issue of things breaking the layout has largely already been resolved. Like, it doesn't break the layout. So if we just remove the truncation, it doesn't seem to introduce any new problem. And it seems like the actual original problem sort of was solved in terms of CSS and flow of long text strings. The other slight issue is that we're also, in its current state, we're adding the node / as the title. I don't know if you can see it on the pop out of hovering over the link, but it says /node 17516, which is the same thing that's actually over here. And also we include the title there. So if you're on a screen reader, certain screen readers will read the title attribute if it's different from the link itself. And so you end up hearing a cascade of the node numbers, which is also kind of annoying. And so there was some recommendations in this ticket to remove the anchor titles, because they weren't really serving a purpose. Questions at all? Or
I was muted, wasn't I?
Yep.
So thank you for pausing. I was about to ask you to pause anyway. And I posted into the Zoom chat a link to a site I set up shortly before the meeting. The usual admin will get you in, and you can experiment with this yourself. I was also noticing, as I looked at this issue, how unhelpful it was to have the system path as the title text for both the alias and the original path.
Yeah, I think it's pretty common to usually we want to reduce the use of title nowadays, so that's for the accessibility. So if it's not necessary, maybe not use it.
All right, so that the patch that I've proposed takes that out of both. The other slight change that it makes, and this is probably where there might be more discussion, is I have the alias link actually point to the alias, and I have the system path actually point to the system path, where before it was also pointing to the alias. And I did that because there are times when there are redirects sometimes at play, or multiple aliases that are actually causing things to string together, and it's helpful to actually have the system path as a link so that you can actually click it and see that you end up getting you end up resolving at that alias. Or if there's a redirect or something else at play, it helps you resolve that a little bit easier. So that was the other change that I made that was not part of the issue, but was related. May have been a little bit of scope creep, sorry.
Scope creep is something to worry about, but not at these meetings. we have the luxury of not worrying about scope creep, implementation, and so forth. We're only concerned with usability. And I think that having both links go to the aliased path is both not helpful and confusing. You see the highlighted node/17516. You expect that when you click on it, you'll go to node/17516. Ralph, did you have any?
The choir here.
Did you have any questions at this point?
Not really a question. At first, a thumbs up, as I already did. Looks all good to me. The only note I would have is, at the moment in the issue summary, or half of a question maybe, in the proposed resolution section in the issue summary, there is still the keep the beginning and the end put ellipses in the middle. Should that be striked, or is it planned?
Oh, yeah, I saw that, and that actually is struck in the HTML of the issue. I need to fix that. It just for some reason doesn't wrap multiple lines.
Oh, okay. So that isn't planned anymore.
No.
Okay, excellent.
I was just tossing out ideas on it in case somebody got to it before I did, but
okay.
But yes, that actually is there. It is deleted, DL'd on the issue, but for some reason it doesn't jump multiple lines. But I can fix that to make that clear.
I guess in the proposed resolution section, one other option has already been crossed out. Probably you should do the same with the other.
Yeah, it's they both are wrapped in DELs, but it doesn't get the second one for some reason. It's like the DEL span multiple lines, but I think it gets broken by the page break.
Yep.
Or by the line break.
By the way, do you have the mobile view for this one?
I do not have a mobile view. I can shrink it down and make it look like mobile. All
right, so does anyone want to play devil's advocate and say this becomes harder to use on mobile, or just looks bad on mobile? Any objections? Because I think we're all pretty much in agreement, but yeah, if we can think of any drawbacks, sooner we raise them, the better. Before we add this to 10.1 and people start complaining. Yeah, I looked on the original issue. I didn't see any screenshots of what it used to look like. Did I miss any?
On on this issue here.
Comment 24.
This is what it used to look like before. All right, is that what you mean?
No, I mean before. Back when the older issue was committed. Before that,
Yeah,
what did it look like?
I don't believe there were any screenshots of that. Yeah, this was questioning why are we bumping it to 50? That's not very much. Yeah, there were no. Yeah, that was the D7 version.
So we have a current screenshot for D7. So it's already broken across lines, and I guess we're using a table. That's not surprising. And it's really, I guess, just a question of, especially on small screens, is it more important to have the full alias, or is it more important to have something that's easy to scan? And yeah, I think I think we all agree it's more important to be able to see what you're dealing with.
Yeah, I would think so. I can't imagine trying to manage these on a phone, small screen. You know, you click and you go, that's not the one I wanted, and have to. I mean, it's hard enough to do it on a desktop. Having to do it on a small screen would make me want to claw my eyes out even more, I think, if that's an efficient term.
I think usually it's easier to scroll with a small device because they usually have touchscreen and you can use two fingers to either direction.
Good point. And I know Mike Gifford's not on this call, but he raised that, you know, when this original issue came out, it was pre-iPhone. So you know, the thing that the original issue was chasing is probably not the thing even anymore.
Right. The innovation of or one of the innovations of the iPhone is that you use your finger to scroll rather than like a stylus or something. And that yeah, okay. I think I don't think we need to labor the point. We agree. This is great. And you can leave a comment on the issue. And if you can link to the issue for today's meeting, that'll give people a way to find the recording when I get around to updating the recording. I'll give you some boilerplate text you can use in the Slack channel.
Thank you so much. It was suggested on the issue that I've find or see if there's a way to or establish whether this is considered a bug or not. Narrow suggested that if I could make this an argument that this is a bug, that it would be eligible backport. In my mind, it's a bug, but I don't know what the criteria is to satisfy that. Is that a label we have to consider or anything like that?
I think there are official descriptions somewhere. Let me see. I think if you go to the form for editing the issue, not issue tags, but priority and status.
I think it maybe doesn't amount to a bug from the UX, but might be from accessibility. So if this kind of solves accessibility issues, then it might be something that kind of would easily be considered a bug in the older versions.
Yeah, if you scroll up a little bit. Oh, too far.
Too far.
Okay, and if you look at the link, just up and a little bit to the left of where your cursor is for Drupal project issues documentation. And then search the page that comes up for category and click on that link or follow that link. Oh, it's right near the bottom of the page. So a bug is a functional error in the system which can have any priority from minor to critical. While the definition of bug is commonly understood, here are some examples. Down at the bottom of the list, usability issue that prevent people from using functionality as if it didn't work at all, or an accessibility issue. It's with the same consequences.
Technically speaking, incorrect or misleading user interface text might apply because it was pointing to, for example, the node page was pointing to the alias without the patch. So
A good point. I missed that. 2 lines above the lines I was reading.
It seems like there might be a couple of grounds that are kind of marginal. I mean, from my point of view, it doesn't, in its current state, it doesn't help me to do the job that I need to do.
Yep.
On the other hand, there are workarounds. You can hover over the link and look at the bottom of your browser window.
Right.
And see where it goes to. So it doesn't prevent you from using it, but it certainly makes it harder.
Right.
I don't have a strong opinion as to whether it counts as a bug or not. I don't have a strong opinion as to whether we should try to get it into the next patch release of 10.0 or be satisfied with 10.1. So I will leave that
inexperienced at making that call. So
I will leave that to you and Lee Rowlands. I don't know if Ralph or Simo, either of you, has a strong opinion.
I'm also having a strong opinion now.
But at least these are the criteria to use if you want to continue that discussion. And I certainly think there's a case for it. But yeah, it's up to the discretion of the core committer, which in this case looks like it'll be Lee Rowlands. All right, we are 20 minutes or so into the meeting. Shall I start sharing my screen now?
Yep. Good.
Minute. Yeah. And one thing I'd like to point out, so this is the site I prepared shortly before the meeting. Notice there's something missing under the structure menu. No block layout, because this is the issue I'm currently working on, is to put block layout under the appearance menu where it belongs, which will finish up at least the issues related to moving pages around. I guess there are further issues related to things like page titles and such. So for instance, under structure, I think proposal is to make this simply block types rather than custom block types. And in general, change custom block to content block. So there's still further work in there, but sort of the most disruptive changes are the ones that change paths and change navigation. And I'm working on the last of those. But let's see. Let's go to the issue for today's meeting, which for the sake of the recording is 3350284. And of course we have, I guess we haven't yet carried forward the list of issues that are sort of waiting for review, but we can go back to last week's meeting. There are a bunch of issues listed in Aaron's comment. So are there any things here that we're ready to discuss? And if not, I'm willing to say that since it's a small meeting and I guess it is a holiday for many people, I'm willing to have a short meeting rather than try to drag it out for the full hour. And I see that Mike Gifford has joined us. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Benji. Sorry for being late.
No problem. Are there issues that you'd like to bring up?
Mostly Steve encouraged me to go, and so was was going to take Easter or try and take Easter off, but Steve was like, "Come join the meeting." So I decided to make it happen, although a bit late. Do we solve the issue you were working on, Steve?
Yeah, we spent the first 20 minutes talking about that, and basically we give it a big thumbs up.
That's terrific.
And
We have strong feelings about pushing for it being a bug, I guess, is the only place we're sort of on the fence.
Well, this is the URL shortener. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, I would say that it is a bug because it's an accessibility issue. If your screen reader is not able to access the information, heck, if everyone isn't able to access the information, it would be a bug, would it not?
I think so.
So yeah, we were looking at this page, the official definition of what constitutes a bug, and we agreed that an argument can be made that it's incorrect or misleading user interface text, and that it's either a usability or accessibility issue that perhaps doesn't prevent you from using the functionality, but certainly makes it less convenient. But anyway, we have agreed on that issue, and the question is whether there are any of the many issues that requested our attention that we're ready to look at today.
And potentially the accessibility bugs with vertical tabs. 308-1500.
This one. Sure, let's
Yes.
have a look at that. And if you'd like to share your screen instead of have me share mine, just let me know. I'll give it again. I'll share in the Zoom chat the link to the site I'm sharing. So this is accessibility bugs with vertical tabs. It's issue 308-1500. Mike, do you want to explain this issue?
Yes. So I think that the the main thing about this is that there's as I recall, issues with how the focus is being presented in this when you're tabbing through the site. And I think there's some screen captures at the bottom of the issue.
The very bottom.
I think that we can, where are we here? Yeah, so a bit more, there we go, right. I think that this is, I think there's one under that she entered here. So, so this was an effort to try and add more visibility around the focus for this. I'm not sure how that was resolved for Claro in particular.
So let's have a look at this. Oh. And again, for anyone watching the recording, this is my site where I'm working on the issue to move block layout under administration. So that's surprising. What's that for help?
Just one note in regards of the block layout. I've noticed, would it make sense to change the weight on the block layout so it is between list and update maybe?
My theory is that it should be next to settings because those are the two that have the same sub-tablet structure. I personally think that update should be at the far right. And for now I'm putting it next to settings and
yeah, but moving update to the complete to the right, yeah, that I would second.
I think that's a good idea, but I think it's out of scope for the current issue. So all right, but anyway, back to the issue at hand. We want to look at
Benji, can you put the link to the issue in the chat as well?
Sure.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, and let's see, what was that screenshot specifically? I was looking at the content type. If I click here, and maybe if I tab, is that the issue?
Yeah, I believe that is the issue here.
So I can tab between these vertical tabs, but then I don't see any way using the keyboard to get into this.
Ralph, do you remember specifically what, I mean, maybe that let's see. I'm trying to remember what the specific elements for this, like it may not actually need a usability review at this point because it's got, it has enough of the I think it's marked as RTBC, but it and the needs review seems to be off.
Yeah.
So does it?
I think one of the things that was kind of considered for usability was maybe the kind of different how it works with those not restricted listing, what categories are selected, that kind of things that are displayed in the on the tab, those additional information. So I think there was something that was kind of obscure, but I can't recall the details. But I think there was one of the issues was with those additional information on the tabs.
Ralph, do you remember more information about this?
Not really from the top of my head, but I tested right now and I'm unable to reproduce the screenshot G posted.
I think that might be with a patch applied.
So I just behind the scenes applied the patch.
Okay.
And at this point, you know, the tab still works the same.
See no difference, to be honest.
But if I keep tabbing to the bottom of the vertical tabs, the next one takes me in there. Is that a change?
I'm not sure when you've applied the patch, but that was 2 or 3 minutes ago, the same behavior. I think the only thing from my perspective, from a logical perspective, I'm not sure if it's possible, but if I tap, for example, the active tab is, let's say, the Pages tab. And if you start at the title, you tap, you get into language, then Pages. And then, from my understanding, if the focus would go into the pane of the Pages tab, for example, that you then get into the text field for Pages and then the radio buttons, and then next you would go into the Roles tab back again, that would be a logical order. You know what I mean?
So what happens if I hit enter at this point?
You change to the tab, yeah.
And then if I tab back, I go to the bottom of the vertical tabs. If I hit enter, then I go into there. And if I keep tabbing, I go to there and if I back tab.
I mean,
So this is
going to
without the tab attached. Go ahead.
Oh, it doesn't make a lot of sense to jump. I mean, it should from the roles menu should, if you go up or down, it should either go to the pages or to the content type if you're going outside of that that expanded list of when the user has the following rules, right?
Right. So I would expect that when I back tab from here, I would go back to roles, but I go to vocabulary. So let me apply the patch again. Says and reload the page. So I'm still using the mouse to click here, but now I'm tabbing. I hit enter here, tab, 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 that's expected, back tab, and I'm still going to vocabulary, that's no change. I don't see what the patch is changing.
Yeah, it's definitely not clear at this point what the usability review would be or the accessibility review either on this patch.
So let's have a look. The proposed resolution. Many of the above issues can be addressed by converting the tabs to use the recommended pattern from MDN. Let me open another copy of this tab and go back to that screenshot we were looking at near the bottom. The outlined area does not match the tab container in Claro. I'm not sure what to make of that.
Are you using the block? This is, at least Musgrave is using the block reference for this to go off and to evaluate it. when adding a block?
Yeah, except that it's now admin appearance block because I've been working on that issue.
Right.
But other than that, yeah, that's where we started, and then I configured basically any block. So let's area attributes, that's not what we're looking at. The active vertical tab is marked with, I'm reading this now. It's marked with an element that is an active tab. The element has a non-unique CSS ID. Ooh. Sadly, this will be very wrong on the filter format and editor configuration form where multiple vertical tabs may appear.
I mean, some of these we're not going to see in navigating the site. There will not be any visible changes with this.
Okay. Autofocus bug number 3. Maybe
yeah, that is fixed. I've tested it right now. If you, for example, tap in the vertical tabs and choose, for example, rows and press enter, then the focus is to the first focusable element inside the tab. That works. But if you tap outside of it, then you get to the bottom, to the vocabulary. That is the only confusing detail, I think. The expected focal element in focus would be either pages again or language.
I'm sorry, can you walk me through what you're saying?
If you tap now in the keyboard, with the keyboard, tap, start and
the page,
click into
so
reload the page, then click into the title field.
click into the title field, okay.
And now press the tab button several times until you reach pages, for example.
Okay.
And now press enter.
Yeah.
And now the focus is on pages. And now press Shift tab. Now you're at vocabulary. That's the thing that is the point. Number 3 is fixed and good, but that I consider.
So that's what I was testing before, and I think I had the same result with and without the patch. I was suggesting that from here I expect to Shift tab to go to pages, but it goes to vocabulary with or without the patch.
Shift tab should go to pages, but if you go down to the bottom of hide for the next listed pages and go from the radio button at the bottom, I can see that you could potentially want to go to roles versus pages. Yeah. But certainly Shift tab should go to pages.
So from here, one Shift tab takes me to the pages text area.
Yeah.
So that's working properly.
But then you do another Shift tab. Where does it go?
Vocabulary.
Right. That does make a lot of sense.
And that looks like that still hasn't been fixed because I'm working now with the patch applied.
Yep, agreed. Well, that's worth noting in the issue queue. That's definitely a step to highlight this. Yeah, to push this a little bit further. So that's all I had to contribute there, Benji. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so who volunteers to leave a comment with that? Shall I do it since I'm the one who's actually doing the testing here?
If you could, Benji, that would be great.
Okay. A little more than 15 minutes left. Shall we go back to this one, the configuring blocks to show or hide on page not found and access denied errors?
Sure.
So we already talked about this back in January. I think we've talked about it more recently than that.
Last week or the week before, I think.
Okay, so the issue is 2245767. Allow blocks to be configured to show or hide on 200/403/404 response pages. Is that title clear enough for those at the meeting, or should we elaborate? Okay, I don't hear anyone asking for further explanation. There's an open question about the wording. Of the warning message. No, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong. Here we go. So this is the comment. Looks like some questions around the exact wording and whether a negate option should be provided instead of the 200 status code checkbox. Oh, and we had several ideas the last time we talked about this. I have a feeling it was 2 weeks ago, and I'm afraid I haven't, or maybe I have published the recording. So it's the same block configuration page that we've been looking at for the last few minutes. And the proposal is, in addition to pages, roles, content type, and vocabulary, adding a new vertical tab for response status with checkboxes here. And maybe I'll open the image in a separate tab. It's just a screenshot, but I guess one of our suggestions was, instead of adding a new vertical tab, to provide additional options in the pages vertical tab. And Mike, are you giving us something in Slack?
I just commented to Stephen Musgrave that this is about the previous issue, to let him know, because he wanted me to comment on it. So that was all.
Okay. So I guess one of our suggestions was to add the options here under pages. There's also the broader issue of this common pattern for many of these restrictions, such as language. If none are selected, all languages will be allowed. And I think that we generally agree that although it's a commonly used pattern, it's not a good pattern. And it's better to have the explicit show or hide radio buttons. But that is out of scope for this issue about 402, 403, or 403, 404 responses. So Ralph, Simo, do you remember where we settled on that last time we talked about it? Were we leaning towards having a separate vertical tab for response status as in the screenshot, or were we thinking it would be better to add additional options under here?
As far as I remember, we were leaning towards additional options on the pages.
Yeah, I agree.
And we were discussing about adding those kind of a similar kind of tags like the front page.
Yeah.
But that was something that we weren't clear about. But that was something we thought would be a good idea.
Well, that's
And
right.
I think you, Benji, had also the idea of adding a negation to those pages field with an exclamation mark. Something
Oh yes, but that's also out of scope.
out of scope. Yeah, true. But was a good idea. And yeah, that's basically it. But we've talked about in, I think last year in October on a similar issue on another tab of that visibility section, where we also said that on one hand, make the show and hide radio buttons consistent for all the other tabs, but also move those radio buttons up, meaning first the radio buttons and then the conditions. That is also a detail.
And in the Zoom chat, Mike suggests having a 404 option behave the same way as the front, and yeah, that is what we were thinking of. Right. Okay. So I think actually we had some good ideas 2 weeks ago. I'm pretty sure it was 2 weeks ago, and we just haven't gotten around yet to posting a comment with the results of that discussion, which is sort of my fault because I focused on moving the block layout under appearance. And I just didn't have time to do both. So yeah, I think what I need to do is go back to that recording and see what our decisions were and come up with a comment. All right, so we do have a little less than 10 minutes left at this point. Again, here's the list of issues. I don't think we really have time to discuss anything else unless any of these look familiar and quick. Go ahead.
There was one issue we've talked about last week or the week before, was just a wordsmithing one. And there came, I'm just searching the notifications mails right now by Lee Rowland. The issue was set to RGBC, but there was a comment and that was recommended to take into recommendation. 1 second. Where is it? My screen's open.
And I guess I'd also like to think about this one. Like, I don't know if 10 minutes is enough time to do it justice, but number 3325445, policy issue, remove tour module from core. And I guess issue tags needs further discussion. I haven't seen that tag before. Where was the needs usability review tag added? There we go in this comment. So do people even know what the tour module is?
Yes.
It was such a great idea.
And it still is.
Just like so many things, like it wasn't consistently used in a way that, I think made it worthwhile maintaining.
Since tour is a usability feature, I think this would need a usability sign off on removing it. My personal perspective is that we need to write more tours and enable tours part of standard.
Totally in line with its statement.
Say again?
Totally in line with its statement that there should be more tours written and tour enabled as part of standard. But the tour module has one major flaw I've noticed in the context of ECA, meaning if you have modules already installed and you add a tour afterwards, that config isn't loaded. You have to uninstall the module and reinstall it. Otherwise, the tour won't show up. That's a significant problem.
Well, that's a bug to be fixed. That is not an argument for uninstalling the tour module. So
no, not the tour module. You have to uninstall the module containing the new tour.
right. I understand the issue, but what I'm saying is that is a bug to be fixed. That is not a reason for removing the tour module from core.
That way, yeah. I agree.
It's also not an argument for keeping it. It is just a bug. Oh, I don't see any tours on this page. How about
views?
Views. All right. I was thinking of Field UI, but let's edit a familiar view. And there's a tour button up here. Manage views settings. I don't see where that's attached to. I guess that's the overall point of the page.
Yeah, the style guide says the first tour tip should have no focus at all.
Okay. And then it steps you through the various things you can do on the page. Fields, filter criteria, sort criteria, sort actions, preview, but it doesn't show us anything under advanced. But I suppose that's appropriate. So we have 4 minutes left. So just, does anyone have strong opinions? Is this something we should keep and finally move forward on creating tours, which we've been talking about for a long time? Or the fact that we haven't added tours in a long time, is that an indication that this should be moved to a contrib module?
Yeah, I think one of the questions is if it will be easier or quicker to add stuff to tour if it's a contrib. So if it's easier to add stuff and maybe add some experimental stuff if it's needed, or if it's if it could be developed more freely if it's not in the core. So I think that's one issue, but yeah, I don't have a strong opinion about that.
It'd be so nice to have some actual data about what authors and administrators find useful, and if the tour module as it is now is providing any benefit for people learning how to use Drupal effectively.
Yeah, so getting some user testing would be really nice. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of people saying, oh, I love to do user testing. What can I test? It's it's hard to get actual tests done. Oh, you just have 2 minutes. So let me point out something that was mentioned in the usability channel recently. Here we go. The link is unfortunately a number, but t.maze.co/154388715. I've already done this, but it's a card sorting exercise for the field UI. And when you click on this add new field button, they're totally redesigning this. I think they say they're not going to be using a select list anymore, but it's a card sorting exercise for all of these options. So I encourage you and anyone who's watching the recording to help out with that card sorting exercise and help with the redesign of the field UI. And we're just 1 minute from the hour. So thank you all for attending. Yes, I'll share the link again. I'll put it again in the Slack channel, okay?
Thank you. That's great.
And we'll be back in a week.
Thank you all
Yeah,
for everything
thanks.
you're doing.
Yep.
Nice weekend, everyone.
Thank you.